The text message glowed on Kerry's laptop screen like a knife to my heart. "You're not just the mother of my child. You're everything." I stared at those words, my hands trembling as I touched the screen, willing them to disappear. But they didn't. They just sat there, mocking everything I thought I knew about family, love, and trust. I'm Reagan, and this is the story of how my sister stole my baby and my husband, or at least how they tried to. 3 years of failed IVF treatments had brought us here. 3 years of hormone injections, disappointments, and crying myself to sleep while Kerry held me, promising we'd find a way. The doctors said my eggs were viable, but my body couldn't carry to term. That's when Poppy, my younger sister, offered to be our surrogate. "I'd do anything for you, Rhea," she'd said, squeezing my hand across the kitchen table. "Let me do this. Let me help you become a mum." I should have seen it then, the way her eyes flickered to Kerry, the slight curl of her lip. But I was too grateful, too desperate for this dream to come true. The first red flag came during the 3rd month of pregnancy. We were at my mother's house for Sunday dinner, and Poppy was showing off her barely there bump. "Feel this?" she giggled, grabbing Kerry's hand and placing it on her stomach. Their touch lingered too long, their smiles too intimate. "They're awfully close these days," Willow, my best friend, mentioned later that week over coffee. I dismissed her concern with a wave. "She's carrying our baby. Of course they're close." "No, Reagan." Willow leaned forward, her voice low. "They're close." I started noticing more after that. The inside jokes I wasn't part of. The way they'd both reach for their phones at the same time, smiling at secret messages. How Poppy started calling herself Mama during doctor's appointments, while I sat in the corner, feeling more like a spectator than a mother. "Have you seen this?" Kerry asked one evening, showing me a sonogram picture on his phone. The same picture Poppy had sent to our family group chat hours earlier. "Yes, she already shared it," I said. "Oh." He looked disappointed. "I thought I'd show you first." But he hadn't shown me first. He'd shown me last. The pregnancy progressed, and I felt increasingly displaced. At baby showers, people gravitated toward Poppy, cooing over her bump while I stood in the background. My mother, Rosalind, didn't help. "Isn't it wonderful how Poppy's doing what you couldn't?" she announced to everyone at a family gathering. "Some women are just natural mothers." Kerry shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. The old Kerry would have defended me. This Kerry just topped off Poppy's water glass and asked if her feet needed rubbing. Then came the laptop incident. Kerry had left it open while showering, and a message notification popped up from Poppy. I hadn't meant to snoop, but my eyes caught my name in the preview. The thread was mostly deleted, dozens of blank spaces with timestamps, but that one message remained. "You're not just the mother of my child. You're everything." My hands didn't shake anymore as I took screenshots. My heart didn't race as I forwarded them to my email. Something inside me had shifted, hardened. That evening, Kerry found me in our home office, calmly organising paperwork. "What are you working on?" he asked, casual as ever. I looked up at him, this man I'd loved for 8 years, and smiled. "Just getting everything in order for the baby. Actually, I was thinking, maybe we should update our legal paperwork. You know, wills, custody arrangements, that sort of thing. Whatever you think is best, honey." He kissed my forehead. "You're always so organised." Yes, I was organised. And I was about to become even more so, because while they thought they were writing their own love story, they had no idea I was already drafting their nightmare. A post-nuptial agreement? Corey raised an eyebrow, scanning the documents I'd brought to her office. "Reagan, honey, what's really going on?" I'd known Corey since law school, before she became one of the city's most feared divorce attorneys. She could smell a marriage falling apart from a mile away. "Just being cautious," I said, smoothing my skirt. "With the baby coming, I want everything ironclad. This isn't just caution." She tapped the papers. "This is armour." "Talk to me." I told her everything. The messages, the lingering touches, the way my sister and husband seemed to exist in their own little bubble. Corey's face darkened with each detail. "We're not just doing a post-nup," she declared, pulling out a fresh legal pad. "We're creating a comprehensive package. Surrogacy contract, custody arrangements, everything, and we're making it bulletproof. The next week, I presented the papers to Kerry over dinner. He was distracted, checking his phone under the table. It's just formality, I said, sliding the post-nup across to him. With all the money we've invested in this pregnancy, we should protect ourselves. Both of us. He barely glanced at it. You really think we need this? Don't you trust me? I asked, echoing the guilt trips he'd been using on me lately. He signed without reading further. The irony of the infidelity clause wasn't lost on me. Poppy was even easier to convince. 6 months pregnant now, she practically glowed when I visited her apartment with the surrogacy contract. Of course I'll sign, she chirped. I want everything perfect for your baby. I caught the slip. She caught me catching it, but we both smiled like nothing happened. You're such an amazing sister, I gushed, watching her sign away any future claims to my child. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. Oh, stop, she giggled. Family takes care of family. Later that week, at my regular OB-GYN appointment, Dr. McGregor seemed confused when Poppy insisted on being called Mum. But Ms. Williams, he started, looking at me. Oh, I'm just the egg donor, I said quietly, watching Poppy's face flash with triumph. She's doing all the hard work. That night, I added Dr. McGregor's witness statement to my growing file. The next few weeks were a blur of baby showers and birthing classes. I played my part perfectly, the grateful sister, the excited mother-to-be. I even helped Poppy pick out maternity clothes, ignoring how she always seemed to model them for Kerry first. These pregnancy hormones are making me so emotional, Poppy sniffled during one shopping trip. Kerry's been such a help. He really understands me. He's good at that, I replied, photographing the receipt for her expensive maternity wardrobe, paid for with Kerry's credit card. More evidence for the file. My mother dropped by unannounced one evening, catching me organising nursery supplies. Poppy's having such a hard time sleeping, she announced. Kerry's been going over to help her get comfortable. Isn't he thoughtful? I kept folding onesies. Very thoughtful. You know, Reagan, she continued, you could show more gratitude. Some women would kill for a sister like Poppy. I looked up at her, smile firmly in place. Oh, Mom. I'm grateful for everything. That night, I heard Kerry on the phone in his study. I can't talk long, he whispered. Yes, I know. I miss you too. Soon, baby. Soon. I recorded every second. The next morning, I met Corey for coffee. Everything's in place, she confirmed. The post-nup, the surrogacy contract, the custody arrangements. They won't know what hit them. They think I'm stupid, I said, stirring my tea. They think because I couldn't carry a baby, I can't carry this. Corey reached across the table and squeezed my hand. They have no idea who they're dealing with, do they? No, I smiled. But they will. Because while they were planning their future, I was planning their downfall. And unlike them, I'd made sure everything was perfectly legal. 8 months into the pregnancy, and my marriage had become a theatre production. Kerry and I performed our roles with practiced precision. Good morning kisses, how was your day conversations, side-by-side phones scrolling in bed. But the warmth was gone, replaced by something hollow and rehearsed. Then Poppy posted that photo on Instagram. Her hand caressing her swollen belly, caption reading, 2 hearts, 1 love. The comments flooded in immediately. You're glowing, Mama. Such a beautiful mother-to-be. You and Kerry must be so excited. My name wasn't mentioned once. I had become a ghost in my own story. Have you seen this? Willow demanded, barging into my house and shoving her phone in my face. She's not even trying to hide it anymore. I've seen it, I said, continuing to fold laundry. Kerry's shirt still smelled like Poppy's perfume. And you're just folding clothes? Willow grabbed the shirt from my hands. Reagan, wake up! They're erasing you. I picked up another shirt. No, they're incriminating themselves. There's a difference. The family dinner that Sunday proved me right. My mother had outdone herself with a feast to celebrate the baby's coming arrival. Poppy sat at the head of the table, Kerry right beside her. Look how she glows, my mother gushed, serving Poppy an extra helping. Some women are just meant to be mothers. I pushed my food around my plate. Funny how that works. Oh, don't be sensitive, Reagan, Poppy said, reaching for Kerry's hand. We all have different gifts. Kerry cleared his throat but didn't pull away from her touch. Maybe we should change the subject. Why? I asked, voice sweet. I love hearing about everyone's gifts. Later, while helping with dishes, I borrowed Poppy's iPad to look up a recipe. She handed it over without hesitation. They'd grown so confident, so careless. That's when I found it. A selfie buried in her recently deleted folder.
Kerry and Poppy tangled in sheets I recognised from our guest bedroom. The timestamp 4 months into the pregnancy. My hands didn't shake as I forwarded it to Corey. They never shook anymore. Reagan, Poppy called from the living room, can you bring me some water? The baby's kicking up a storm. I walked in to find her guiding Kerry's hand across her belly. They jumped apart when they saw me, but not quickly enough. Beautiful moment, I said, setting down the water.
Should I take a picture? That night, Kerry tried to initiate sex for the first time in months. I turned away. What's wrong? He asked, as if he didn't know. Don't you want to connect? I'm just tired, I said. Growing a baby is exhausting work. Oh wait, I forgot. I'm not the one doing that, am I? He went silent, then got up and left the room. I heard his car start 10 minutes later. The next morning, I met Corey at her office. Got your email, she said, pulling up the selfie. This is explicit. They were in my house, I said, in my guest room. The timestamp matches the dates in your documentation, she noted, adding the photo to my file. How much more evidence do you need? Just a little longer, I said. They're getting sloppy, proud even. Pride comes before the fall, Corey smiled. That evening I came home to find Kerry packing a small suitcase. Business trip? I asked, knowing full well his company had no upcoming travel. Sort of, he mumbled. Just need some space to think. After the baby comes, we should talk about things. Things, I repeated. Like how you're sleeping with my sister? He froze, then turned to me with practiced concern. Reagan, you're not thinking clearly. The stress of the surrogacy. You're right, I cut him off. I'm not thinking clearly at all. Have a good trip, Kerry. He left, and I watched through the window as his car turned left, toward Poppy's apartment, instead of right toward the airport. I pulled out my phone and texted Corey, they're ready. Time to close the trap. Because while they thought they were writing their love story, I was finishing their tragedy. I spent the next week documenting everything with surgical precision. Every receipt, every message, every business meeting that mysteriously aligned with Poppy's doctor appointments. The evidence filled a thick leather binder that sat in my office like a loaded gun. Look what I found, I said to Willow, showing her an email from Kerry to his company's HR department. He was requesting paternity leave for a family bonding trip. Family bonding? Willow scoffed. More like family betrayal. Why aren't you screaming at them? Why aren't you burning their world down? I closed my laptop carefully. Because they're writing the script. I'm just playing along. For now. I don't understand you anymore, she said, shaking her head. Good, I replied. Neither do they. That afternoon, Kerry's business partner Robert stopped by our house unexpectedly. Reagan, he said awkwardly, standing in our foyer, I needed to talk to you about something concerning. I led him to the kitchen, already knowing what was coming. There are some irregular expenses, he continued. Hotel charges, restaurant bills, jewellery purchases, all filed as business expenses, but they're for Poppy, I finished, pulling out a folder. My sister. Here's everything I've documented. Robert's eyes widened as he flipped through the pages. You knew? I know everything, Robert. And I'm handling it, legally. He nodded slowly. I'll need to distance the company from this, you understand? Completely. In fact, I'm counting on it. Later that evening, Kerry came home looking troubled. Robert's acting strange, he said, loosening his tie, talking about audits and ethical reviews. How stressful, I sympathised, stirring dinner. More pasta? I'm not hungry. He paced the kitchen. Reagan, we need to talk. After the baby comes. Yes? I'm feeling emotionally disconnected from us, from this marriage. I set down my spoon. Is that why you're planning a family bonding trip without me? His face paled. How did you know about the leave request? Or the apartment you've been looking at with Poppy? Or the joint bank account you opened last month? You've been spying on me? His voice rose with manufactured outrage. No, Kerry! I've been watching you destroy yourself. He stormed out, phone already in hand. Probably calling Poppy, warning her that I was on to them. Let them worry. Let them scramble. The next morning, my mother called. Poppy's very upset, she began, without preamble. She says you're threatening her. Really? I kept my voice light. What exactly did I threaten her with? The truth? Don't be dramatic, Reagan. If you can't handle seeing your sister happy. Happy with my husband, in my life, with my baby. It's her baby too, my mother snapped. She's the one carrying it. Is that what they told you? I smiled into the phone. Interesting legal theory. I hung up and called Corey. They're panicking, I told her. Moving up their timeline. Good, she said. The harder they push, the harder they'll fall. Are you ready? I've been ready since I found that first message. That night, Kerry didn't come home. Instead, he texted, staying with Poppy. She needs me. This stress isn't good for the baby. I forwarded the message to my binder of evidence and went to bed in peaceful silence. The next morning, Poppy posted another Instagram photo. Her and Kerry at a cafe, his hand on her belly. Caption, family breakfast with the two loves of my life. I screenshot it, then called Dr. McGregor's office. This is Reagan, I said. I understand my sister has an appointment today? Yes, Mrs. Williams. Would you like us to reschedule? No, I said, thinking of the binder. In fact, I'll be there. It's time everyone understood exactly who's who in this situation. Because while they thought they were approaching their happy ending, I was about to give them the plot twist of their lives. The delivery room was a battlefield disguised as a medical sanctuary. Poppy lay on the bed, Kerry clutching her hand while I stood in the corner, my leather binder tucked safely in my bag. The contractions were 5 minutes apart. Only family in the room now, the nurse announced. She can wait outside, Poppy panted, glaring at me through another contraction. I'm the mother, I said calmly. I'm not going anywhere. Kerry shifted uncomfortably. Reagan, maybe it would be better. I'm staying. I met his eyes.
Unless you want to explain to the hospital staff why the legal mother of this child should leave. That shut them both up. Dr. McGregor entered, nodding professionally at me before checking Poppy's progress. Almost there. The baby's crowning. What followed was a blur of screaming, pushing and medical terminology. Then suddenly a cry pierced the air, strong, clear and perfect. It's a girl, Dr. McGregor announced, holding up my daughter. I stepped forward, arms outstretched, but Poppy's voice cut through the moment like a knife. Give her to me, she demanded. I'm her mother. The room went silent. The nurse looked uncertainly between us. Actually, Poppy continued, her voice gaining strength as Kerry moved closer to her, there's something we need to announce. My mother chose that moment to burst into the room, because of course she did. Is everyone okay? How's my grandbaby? Mom, Poppy smiled, still not releasing the baby to the nurse. Perfect timing. Kerry and I are in love. We have been for months. And we're going to raise this baby together. The nurse froze. Dr. McGregor's eyebrows shot up. Reagan, Kerry said softly, trying to sound reasonable. You have to understand. These things happen. Poppy and we connected. The baby needs a real family, not a broken home. A real family, I repeated. Like the one you built on lies. Don't be bitter, my mother cut in. If you really love this baby, you'll want her to have two parents who love each other. You were just the egg donor, Poppy added, her true colours finally showing. I carried her. I bonded with her. I'm her real mother. I looked at them all, my sister's triumphant smile, Kerry's attempted sympathy, my mother's misplaced loyalty. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out the binder. Before anyone makes any more announcements, I said, my voice steady, You might want to read this." "What is that?" Poppy demanded. "Everything," I replied, setting it on her bed. "Every message, every receipt, every legal document you both signed without reading, including the surrogacy contract that gives me full custody and defines you, dear sister, as nothing more than a gestational carrier." Kerry grabbed the binder, flipping through pages frantically. His face went white. "The post-nuptial agreement," he whispered. "The infidelity clause. Means you get nothing," I finished. "No house, no savings, no custody rights. And Poppy's signature on the surrogacy contract. It explicitly waives any maternal claims." "You can't do this," my mother screeched. "Actually," Dr. McGregor stepped forward, "I can confirm all the legal documentation was properly filed. I witnessed most of it myself." "Nurse," I said quietly, "I'd like to hold my daughter now." The nurse, who had been watching this drama unfold with professional detachment, carefully placed my baby in my arms. She was perfect, tiny fingers, button nose, and absolutely legally mine. "This isn't over," Poppy snarled, trying to get up. "Actually, it is," said a new voice. Corey stood in the doorway, more papers in hand. "Unless you'd both like to explain to a judge why you conspired to commit custody fraud, not to mention the financial implications of those falsified business expenses, Kerry." "Reagan," Kerry pleaded, we can talk about this." "No," I said, cradling my daughter. "We can't. But my lawyers can talk to yours." I walked toward the door, then turned back one last time. "Oh, and Poppy, you were wrong. I'm not just the egg donor. I'm the mother. The only mother she'll ever have." As I walked down the hallway with my newborn, I heard Poppy's wails of rage behind me, but they couldn't touch me anymore. I had everything that mattered right here in my arms. The chaos that erupted in that delivery room was almost theatrical. Kerry frantically flipped through the binder while Poppy tried to get out of bed, only to be stopped by the medical staff. "Page by page," Corey announced, walking further into the room. "Let's start with the post-nuptial agreement. Section 3, paragraph 2. In the event of infidelity, all joint assets transfer to the wronged party." "You tricked me into signing this," Kerry shouted, his face red. "No, you were just too arrogant to read it," I replied, still holding my daughter. "Just like you were too arrogant to hide your affair properly." Poppy lunged for the binder, but Dr. McGregor stepped between us. "Miss Riley, you need to remain in bed." "This isn't legal," my mother declared. "You can't steal a baby from its mother." Corey pulled out another document. "Actually, let's discuss the surrogacy contract, the one where Poppy explicitly signed away any maternal rights. The one that defines her role as, and I quote, strictly a gestational carrier with no legal claims to the child." "I didn't know what I was signing," Poppy wailed. "Really?" I shifted my daughter gently. "Because there's video footage of you reading and signing every page. Remember that day you were so eager to prove what a wonderful sister you were?" Kerry's face had gone from red to ashen. "The bank accounts—" "Frozen," Corey confirmed, "along with all joint assets and those business expenses you've been claiming. The IRS is very interested in those hotel receipts." "Robert," Kerry whispered, "he knew." "Your business partner was quite helpful once he saw the evidence," I said. "He's already started proceedings to dissolve your partnership. Something about protecting the company's reputation." The nurse stepped forward. "We need to complete the birth certificate. Who should be listed as the mother?" "Reagan Williams," Dr. McGregor said firmly, "as per the legal documentation we have on file." Poppy burst into tears. "This isn't fair. I carried her. I felt her kicks. Kerry and I love each other." "Love?" I laughed softly. "Is that what you call destroying your sister's marriage? Trying to steal her child? That's not love, Poppy. That's theft." "Reagan," Kerry tried one last time. Think about what you're doing. Think about our history. Oh, I have. I handed Corey the baby while I pulled out my phone. Like this history. I played a recording of Kerry and Poppy in our guest room, planning their future together. Or maybe this one. Another recording, this time of them discussing how to push me out of the picture. My mother sank into a chair, finally silent. You recorded us, Poppy shrieked. I documented everything, I corrected. Every conversation, every message, every plan you made to take my child. And now? I took my daughter back from Corey. Now you get to live with the consequences. What consequences? Kerry demanded. Corey smiled. Well, there's the financial ruin from the post-nup. The potential fraud charges for those business expenses. The custody agreement that bars both of you from any contact with the child. Oh, and the civil suit we'll be filing for emotional distress and conspiracy. You can't do this to us, my mother whispered. Actually, Mom, they did this to themselves. I just made sure there was a price to pay. The room fell silent except for my daughter's soft cooing. Dr. McGregor cleared his throat. Those not directly involved in medical care need to leave now, he said firmly. This isn't over, Poppy called as Corey ushered Kerry and my mother out. Actually, I turned back, my daughter secure in my arms. It was over the moment you thought you could take what's mine. You just didn't know it yet. Later in my private room, Willow visited with tears in her eyes. You magnificent bitch, she whispered, hugging me carefully. You played them at their own game. No, I said, watching my daughter sleep. I just played by the rules. They're the ones who thought they were above them. Because while they had tried to write me out of my own life, I had carefully, methodically, legally written them out of mine. And now, looking at my daughter's peaceful face, I knew it was worth every calculated moment. 3 months after Ilara's birth, the full weight of consequences crashed down on everyone involved. I watched it unfold like dominoes falling in slow motion. Have you seen this? Willow asked over coffee, sliding her phone across the table. On the screen was a local news article. Prominent business partnership dissolves amid fraud allegations. Robert didn't waste any time, I said, bouncing Ilara on my knee. Kerry's living in some dump on the east side, Willow continued. I heard he can barely afford rent since the asset freeze. I'd seen his new place, a dingy one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat. Not quite the love nest he and Poppy had planned. Speaking of Poppy, her carefully curated social media empire was crumbling. The IRS audit had revealed years of unreported income from her influencer partnerships. Now her posts were desperate attempts to maintain relevance. Missing my angel baby, she'd written under a throwback pregnancy photo. The comments were brutal. Didn't you try to steal your sister's baby? How could you do that to your own family? Home wrecker. My mother wasn't faring much better. Her reputation in the community was shattered after the truth came out. The neighbourhood association had even asked her to step down as president. Reagan, she'd pleaded on my voicemail last week, please talk to me. I didn't understand. I deleted the message without responding. Corey stopped by one afternoon with updates. Kerry's lawyer reached out, she said, making faces at Ilara. They want to discuss visitation rights. No, that's what I told them. Then I reminded them about the sealed evidence we haven't released yet. They backed off? Like they'd been burned, Corey grinned. Also, Poppy's being investigated for tax fraud. Apparently, Kerry wasn't the only one misreporting expenses. I shifted Ilara to my other arm. And the custody agreement? Ironclad. They can't touch her. Later that night, as I was feeding Ilara, an email notification popped up on my phone from Kerry's personal account. Subject line, Redemption? Dear Reagan, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. What Poppy and I did was unforgivable. But Ilara is my daughter too. Please, can we talk about some kind of arrangement? I miss her. I miss what we had. Kerry. I stared at my daughter's face. My eyes, Kerry's nose, but an expression all her own. She reached up, grabbing my finger with her tiny hand. Your daddy made his choice, I whispered to her, and I made mine. The next morning I met Willow for our weekly walk in the park. You seem different, she observed as I pushed Ilara's stroller. Lighter somehow. Do I? Yeah, like you're not carrying their betrayal anymore. A jogger passed us doing a double take at Ilara. People often commented on how alert and happy she was. You know what's funny? I said, adjusting the stroller's shade. They thought they were punishing me, taking what was mine. But they just gave me the strength to take everything back. Including your power, Willow added. Especially that. My phone buzzed, another email from Kerry. This one was desperate, talking about lawyers and father's rights and how he'd changed. Are you going to respond? Willow asked, reading over my shoulder. Actually, yes. I pulled up my email and typed 2 words. Remember this? Then I attached a single photo, the selfie of him and Poppy in my guest room, the one that started my documentation, the one that proved they'd been planning this all along. Brutal, Willow whispered admiringly. No, I corrected, pushing the stroller toward the playground. Just honest, finally. Because while they'd tried to write a fairy tale with themselves as the heroes, reality had other plans. Their castle of lies had crumbled, leaving them with nothing but regrets and consequences. But me? I had everything I needed right here. My daughter, my strength, and the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes justice doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it just needs to wait patiently with a leather binder full of truth. I sat in my home office, Ilara sleeping peacefully in her bassinet beside my desk, when Corey called. They're both filing for bankruptcy, she announced without preamble. Kerry and Poppy, separately of course, turns out their little love story isn't so romantic when neither of them has any money. How tragic, I said, watching Ilara's chest rise and fall. Any other news? Your mother's selling her house, moving to Florida apparently, and Kerry's company, the one Robert took over, it's thriving without him. I opened my laptop, where an unsent email to Kerry had been sitting in my drafts for days. His desperate messages had continued, each one more pathetic than the last. This would be my only response. Dear Kerry, I read aloud to Corey, attached is a copy of the same binder that ended your plans in the delivery room. Keep it as a reminder. Karma isn't a cosmic force. It's a choice we make. Every action has consequences. Every betrayal leaves a paper trail. You and Poppy chose your path. I chose mine. Cold, Corey approved. Send it. I hit send, then forwarded the same email to Poppy and my mother. You know they'll try to contact you again, Corey warned. Let them. I've got a restraining order and a very good lawyer. After hanging up, I carried Ilara to the nursery, the one I'd decorated myself, without Poppy's helpful suggestions or Kerry's fake enthusiasm. The walls were painted with constellations, tiny stars glowing in the dark. The doorbell rang. It was Willow, holding a bottle of wine and takeout. Thought you could use dinner that isn't eaten one-handed, she said, setting up our feast on the coffee table. You're a lifesaver, I said, settling Ilara into her swing. So, I heard about the bankruptcies, she started, pouring the wine. News travels fast. Small town, big scandal, she paused. Any regrets? I looked at my daughter, then at the life I'd rebuilt without them. Only that I didn't see it coming sooner. But then again, maybe the timing was perfect. How so? Because they thought they were writing the ending, but I held the pen. And now I hold everything that matters. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, Poppy, using a friend's phone. "You've ruined everything. Was revenge worth destroying our family?" I showed Willow the message before blocking the number. "They still don't get it, do they?" she asked. "No. They think this was about revenge." I picked up Ilara, who had started to fuss. But it was about justice, about consequences, about showing my daughter that her mother isn't someone who can be erased. "Speaking of your little star," Willow smiled at Ilara, "have you heard what people are saying about her name?" I had. Ilara, named after one of Jupiter's moons. A celestial body that carved its own path through space, bound by nothing but its own gravity. They say I named her that to spite Poppy, who wanted to name her after our grandmother. "Did you?" "No, I named her Ilara because she'll always know her own worth, her own path, just like her mother finally learned to." Willow raised her glass. "To karma." "No," I corrected, touching my glass to hers while Ilara watched with curious eyes. "To consequences, to justice, to writing our own stories." Because that's what this was really about. Not revenge, though the justice felt sweet. Not winning, though I'd protected what was mine. It was about taking back the pen from those who tried to write me out of my own life. My phone buzzed again, an email notification. Kerry's response to the binder. "I understand now. I'm sorry." I deleted it without reading further. His understanding came too late. His apology meant nothing. The story had already been written, not in the fairy tale way they'd planned, but in the real way that truth demands. Ilara grabbed my finger, her tiny grip surprisingly strong, and I knew that this moment, this peace, this victory was the only ending that mattered. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't serving karma. It's simply living well, with truth as your witness and justice as your ink